Hi everyone, Medyhne here. I'm just doing a quick impromptu video about the flood situation in New South Wales predominantly at the moment. So I've had a lot of people asking me about information on this. So this is why I'm doing this video. The information at the moment that I'm able to ascertain, and it is hard because we are getting a lot of different information about things, but basically what I'm getting is that there's been virtually no help from external sources like the rescue people, the police, the military, with this incredibly huge flood situation that has hit Australia, reaching from potentially Gympie down to the top of Victoria, right through New South Wales. Some towns have been completely flooded and underwater. There were in some towns just families on roofs waiting to be rescued, and the extent of this disaster, I think, is fairly unprecedented in recent times. It's absolutely huge. The amount of people that it's impacted, the amount of homes that it's impacted, and businesses, and probably even the amount of lives lost. But you see, we don't have clear information on that because, of course, mainstream media aren't reporting what's going on really, and not the truth of the situation. There are posts that potentially 400 people are missing, unaccounted for, in one of the towns called Lismore. And there was a report that people, and I don't know if this can be verified, but that people were collecting bodies and putting them on the Ballina Road. So, I mean, I can't confirm that, but these are just reports that we've been hearing. I have a friend who also knows people around the Lismore area, and he said he's heard of knife fights breaking out there because of the complete chaos that's going on. There has been very, very positive developments in terms of how the community has come together, and it's the civilians and the people that have been through the trauma that are getting together and really stepping up and showing unbelievable levels of support for one another, which is beautiful. I just want to show you a few images. So this is an image of one of the towns called Woodburn that went underwater. And if you can see the house that I'm pointing to here, the red brick house, this was a house that I lived in 8 months ago. So it was underwater, just a few days ago with these floods. And here also is another image that you can see where their bridge was completely underwater except the middle of it. So a lot of the cars and the horses went to the top of the bridge to try and stay above the water level. So that was huge. But there are a lot of towns like this that have just been completely inundated with the huge levels of water that have occurred very, very quickly. There's also images of in terms of looking at the bioengineering of how these storms happened, of the storm cells happening right over the top of the two major cities, Brisbane and Sydney. So that's, of course, very suspicious. Then we've got, people like Rob Bush in America, who's talking about all the weather patterns and how the chem bombs were being deployed. He could see them very clearly being deployed around that time. So also there's insurance companies that were talking about how they weren't sure whether to pay out because it looked like some of these storms were man-made. So, there is very serious questions, obviously, in regard to these storms and just the extremity of them. I had a very interesting comment on YouTube from a lady who was kayaking 45 minutes from Brisbane, and she was on a dam, and this was just prior to the storms, and she said that there were these strange beams of light that came down, or rays of light hitting the dam, and one of them touched her leg, and she went home. Then she discovered the next day that this awful sore was developing on her leg, and she didn't know what it was. So she went to a doctor, and she asked the doctor and said, what do you think it is? And he said, I don't know, I haven't seen this before, but it looks a lot like radiation. And, you know, it was being obviously targeted toward these dams in that Brisbane area at that time. Of course, then it leads to the question of who did create this in the first place? Was it the dark hats, the white hats? You know, there's all the conjecture on that, the different narratives. There are narratives that people are sharing about, and I've had about 4 spiritual healers, way showers, teachers tell me that when they meditated on this is what they got, that it was actually the white hats, and that the storms were created to help flush out, you know, sort of the bunkers and the dams where there are, you know, reptilian energies and, you know, nefarious energies still hiding down there. And then I had someone else say to me, well, you know, the bunkers were created with extraordinary levels of engineering, so they would be protected. But then somebody else was saying to me how, you know, the lightning strikes, we had just this incredible number of thousands of lightning strikes. And, you know, there's a lot of documentation of this, just happened prior to the storms. And this friend who was channeling information, she said that she felt that the lightning strikes were creating flaws or fissures in the bunkers so that they could then be you know, the floodwaters would be able to flush them out from that. So that was an interesting theory, because these lightning strikes clearly, again, were engineered from some source for a reason. And then, you know, the Byron area is renowned for having a lot of movie people and people that have bought these multi-million-dollar mansions to escape, you know, if anything happens in the world. So, you know, that Byron region is renowned for that. It's a lot of, you know, Hollywood people are there and things like that. So that's all very interesting. And then there is the other narrative of the dark cats, which Dale Holmes, the lovely Dale Holmes, has been talking about. Here's an image from his recent Rumble show, where he talks about the Agenda 21 and why Northern Rivers was targeted. So he's saying basically that they have this agenda to utilize that area for their own sources, and they don't want the residential areas there with people in them. They want people to move away, form separate communities that are more easily controllable, and then they can, you know, continue with their agenda. And that's what they were doing there. And there was a similar theory, of course, with the fires that happened a few years back, that they were clearly, again, man-made fires engineered along train lines where they wanted to run a high-speed train. And so conveniently, the fires were sort of pretty much following that track of where that was going. So that's very interesting. Also, of course, you know, the dark hats theory would align with them not wanting to have people collecting in Canberra for the protesting, or the freedom rallies, I should say, and not wanting to push back against the government activity at the moment. So there is that, of course, as well. And I mean, the levels of devastation. I also heard someone channel that she said that the white hats were responsible, but they were very upset at how extremely it had affected so many people. That was not the intention, but it just happened as a result of them taking down the deep state reptilian beings, or, you know, the ones that they were wanting to get rid of. Because, of course, with the narrative of the Alliance clearing up the planet, they're not going to leave a single nefarious, malevolent energy on the planet, or it can just continue with its agenda. So they're very strictly adhering to clearing up every single being that is of a dark malevolent force on the planet at this time. So very interesting. What I also would love to share with you in terms of the flooding here is that I've got some information that might be helpful to people. I'm going to leave some details below about places where you could potentially contribute, donations, things like that. I would like to make a disclaimer that everybody that responds to this and does donate follows up the source themselves and makes sure that these are all, you know, fully legitimate. There are some very trusted people like David O'Neig's, who's recommending his friend Dottie, and then there's also Dale Holmes is recommending his friend as well, who's also helping. So there's people that are recommended that are in there hands-on, you know, making the difference, and they're not sort of specific charities, but they're there and they're reliable and you know, trustworthy sources. But there's some other ones here that I'll share below as well, but it's up to each person to make sure that their donation is going to the right place. So here's some information, further information that we've just received on the situation now. So this was on Facebook, and this is talking about free services to flood affected areas, offering free pressure washing services across Murwillumbah and Tweed regions. You know, there are reports, of course, that Mullumbimby has run out of water, and certain towns have run very low on water. So I can't confirm how that's going now. Here's another one, missing. Have you seen this government? Of course, our Prime Minister is completely MIA, missing in action at the moment. And as are the emergency services, the police and military. I did receive a report that in Woodburn, the township that I shared the photo of earlier, the army were there yesterday helping. So I can confirm that because I have a dear friend in Woodburn who said that. This friend has lost his house, his business, his cars, his trucks, pretty much everything. And he couldn't insure because the insurance costs was at such a premium, I think 10,000 per year to insure a business, that he couldn't insure any of his businesses or anything, which was really sad. So he's pretty much lost anything. He said he had probably $1.5 million worth of assets before the flood, and now it's pretty much down to zero, zilch.
Got the army there. That's the army. Then we got old mate down here. A few of them there.
In 200 metres, turn right onto
And then you come around the corner. They're filming themselves. Look at them, emptying out a trailer full of rubbish onto the side of the road with the rubbish. This is what's happening. They're filming themselves. Look at them. This is unbelievable. Doing a good job, guys. That trailer ain't going to empty itself, is it? Make sure you get it filmed. This is incredible. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well done, fellas. You're earning every penny. Look at that trailer. Save the trailers, everybody. Oh my.
So this is New South Wales and Northern Rivers locals are demanding a state of emergency be declared. Locals of New South Wales and Northern Rivers are calling on the federal and state government to deliver urgent support in the form of supplies, funding and skilled help as they complete their 7th day of the post-floods cleanup. The towns impacted include Mullumbimby, Medyhne, Wilsons Creek, Burrumba, South Golden, Lismore, Chindera, Kingscliff, Murwillumbah and Ballina. I was in Kingscliff yesterday, and there's houses upon houses where they've just emptied out all their furniture and everything that's been impacted by the floods out on the front lawn, and all the lawns have just piles of stuff waiting to be collected from the floods that everyone's had to throw out, you know, washing machines, fridges, all sorts of things. The TDA spoke to Jess Hayes, the organiser of one of the petitions calling for a state of emergency to be declared in the region. Hayes said emergency services and skilled professionals are desperately needed to alleviate the pressure on local communities. At the moment, a lot of the community has put their life on hold to help out and donate whatever they can. I've got a friend here up in Coolangatta who's driving down, or Gold Coast, driving down tomorrow to take some supplies to the area as well. So individual people are just driving down and trying to help where they can. But a lot of people are going back to work soon, so we need the Army and emergency services to take over from those in the community. Residents have said they have limited phone reception and internet, and many are still trapped in remote areas, unable to communicate with the rest of the communities. According to Hayes' petition, most of the water supply in the area has been contaminated. Fuel is being rationed out at petrol stations. ATMs are out of cash and cards cannot be used in the areas where there is no cell signal, and food supplies are rapidly dwindling. In some cases, people are hiring private helicopters to fly in food and supplies. Yesterday, the Byron Bay community sent 1,200 warm meals to the Lismore area via privately hired helicopters. Crowd-funded helicopters have also been used to rescue people in remote areas. Hayes said access to power was also a major issue in the region, with generators often the only way to provide power to those assisting in the cleanup. Whilst the federal government has announced disaster relief payments for those impacted, and at the moment they're offering a measly $1,000 per family. Wow, that's going to make a big difference. Hayes said many, continuing, Hayes said many residents have not been able to access the payment because of the lack of internet connection. Some evacuation centres do have a representative from Services Australia to process claims in person, but Hayes said many of the evacuation centres are at capacity. A state of emergency can be declared to suspend particular functions of government, instruct communities to alter their normal behaviours, and order government agencies to implement emergency preparedness plans. And yes, we do ask the angels to come and surround them. So that probably was a good to mention the angels. In New South Wales, a Premier can declare a state of emergency if they're satisfied that an emergency constitutes a significant and widespread danger to life or property. It can apply to the whole state or specified parts. Speaking in Lismore yesterday, New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet, or however you pronounce his name, said no dollar would be spared for the recovery and denied claims that communities outside Lismore had been forgotten. He said the first 900 of estimated 5,000 Australian Defence Force personnel would be deployed in surrounding areas from today. He said the government's top priority was housing for residents who had lost homes. TD asked for Premier's office for comment on whether a state of emergency would be declared, but did not receive a reply. So it's interesting, you know, they're very quick to claim a state of emergency for things like a fake pandemic, but when it comes to real emergencies and real situations where real people need real help, forget about it. It's hard not to be passively hostile in this situation. It's frustrating. I'm trying to stay, you know, centered, but, you know, just the level of complete and utter corruption and disregard, complete absence of care, basically, from all the, but of course, you know, we know that there is a depopulation agenda. We know all that, and then they're doing all that, but it's just hard to go through something like this and see it. You know, there are also reports that they're saying to the people who've had to leave their homes in different areas in the Byron region and things that, you know, they're not allowed, that they shouldn't come back to the same houses and they should relocate because they're not supposed to be in these areas anymore, and they shouldn't continue their lives in the same place because they need to relocate. And of course, that could be the agenda that Dale Holmes was talking about. I'm just wondering if there's any other important bits of information that I've missed. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention is that there was a Mardi Gras, supposedly, that all the police stations were celebrating at the time of the floods. There was video footage of all the police, you know, around New South Wales, everywhere, you know, celebrating with a video. Oh, yay, let's celebrate the Mardi Gras, happy Mardi Gras. Meantime, you know, they should have been helping with all these floods. I mean, it was beyond, I mean, you could say it was ludicrous or ridiculous, but it was also so extremely serious, you know, that this was happening, that the complete contrast of them celebrating, cheering and being all happy and waving their flags, their Mardi Gras flags, and all the police stations at the same time, you know, all these people are in desperate, dire situations, and they're, you know, calling out for rescuers on rooftops, and the military couldn't get to them because of the flooding apparently, but so many people were just stranded, and people climbing into the cavities in the roofs, which could be why there were people dying as well, because they couldn't get out as the floods rose. And of course then you've got all the animals as well, and the livestock. So yes, extremely concerning. Here's a few more shots. Here's a shot from Lismore. This is one of the shops, and all the rubbish just being dumped out the front, and remembering that it's just the civilians at this point that are helping with this. So this is the shot of the store. I think it's in Lismore, and all the stores with all the rubbish piled out the front. And that there was a story that contaminated needles were just being found everywhere, because all that waste just was in the flooding, and so therefore the water's being contaminated in that area. And then you've got the that an estimated 400 people are missing from the Lismore floods. I don't know, I can't verify that. I don't know how accurate that is, but I mean, this is the whole problem with this situation, that the mainstream media, have their own sensationalist agenda version of what's happening, which of course is serving their own agenda. So we only can hear information from people on the ground level to be really sort of clear on what is happening here. But I mean, obviously this is being hushed up at the highest level. People overseas are not hearing about this flooding in Australia. It's being really hushed up, and the level of need is just huge. So I've left some links below today in the description. I had a lot of people asking me, how can I help? I've also left below in the description a copy and paste information about what's going on that people can share and copy and paste it. I'll try to keep everyone posted on what's happening here. Of course, this is on top of some huge protests that happened just prior to this in Canberra, and there were people being hit with the extremely nefarious sonic sonar weaponry. And I can tell you that a dear friend of mine who was hit with it, she could barely, she couldn't function. She couldn't even go to the toilet when she got home. They took ages to drive home, even though it wasn't that far. And then when she got home, she had to be taken to hospital. She was in there for, I think, about 5 days, and had to be put on oxygen because the radiation of this sonar weaponry apparently pulled oxygen out of her body, and she couldn't breathe properly. So, they've been dealing with that. And then, this is the next level. So, please send lots of prayers and blessings to Australia. I know that around the world there's so much going on, and there's so much need and hardship everywhere, really, that you look around the world. But, there is a huge mainstream media focus on Ukraine at the moment for a reason, trying to get everyone's attention focused there and off other things that are happening. So, any prayers, blessings are deeply welcome. And I fortunately wasn't needed for me to evacuate, even though I was told on my phone that I should evacuate. We didn't need to. We stayed, and we were okay. And we were very lucky that our house and garage and even our business were above water. So we were very blessed with that. But, so many people weren't so lucky. And our thoughts and prayers and blessings go to each and every one of them. And also a big shout out to all the incredible community that are banding together and helping one another and supporting one another at this time. Please also share this video, because people need to know what's going on. And thank you to of course, humanity. We're the ones that are going to have to change this level of corruption that we're seeing at the higher levels and the governmental levels, that is becoming clearer and clearer. Every catastrophe, every disaster, everything that happens contributes to our absolute clarity on the fact that these beings are not here to help us. They're here to actually take us down. So, you know, we can see this clearly in their response to this situation. And, you know, we need to reorganize a whole new system, a whole new world, co-create one that serves us and our highest good and serves all humanity. So looking forward to that day. Hopefully it's not too far away. I do believe so much good is going on underneath, but it can't be revealed at this time. So stay strong, everyone. Much love. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.